readers. Today we will look into the summary of the science fiction novel The Invisible Man, written by H.G Wells. The story begins on a stormy winter evening in Iping, West Sussex, with the arrival of a mysterious man dressed head to toe in heavy clothes. His name is Griffin, who is the main character in the story. His body is wrapped in bandages and he is wearing a prosthetic nose and gloves. Griffin takes room at the local inn. He is very rude and brusque, setting up a laboratory of sorts in his room. He never leaves during the day, and shipments of glass jars and other equipments arrive. He becomes the subject of gossip in the village, which speculates on what sort of accident left him unwilling to expose any part of his body. Meanwhile, a mysterious burglary occurs in the village. Griffin is running out of money and is trying to find a way to pay for his boarding and lodging. When his landlady demands that he pays his bill and quits the premises, he begins removing his clothing, revealing that he is completely invisible. The villagers, shocked and horrified, attack in an attempt to stop him from escaping, but his invisibility makes it difficult. He fights them off and flees. Griffin meets a man named Thomas Marvel, a tramp living in the open. Marvel is amazed to hear a disembodied voice speaking to him and agrees to be Griffin's assistant. That night, Marvel and Griffin return to the village to reclaim Griffin's notes and possessions. Their presence is noted and the villagers arrive and attempt to detain him, who once again defeats them brutally. Marvel and Griffin head to a nearby town, where he steals money and places it in Marvel's pocket. Discovering the money, Marvel abandons him and threatens to go to the police. Enraged, Griffin pursues Marvel and finds him in a local pub, where he attempts to kill him. The other bar patrons defend Marvel. However, Griffin receives a superficial gunshot wound. He flees to the house of an old colleague in the scientific community, Dr. Kemp. He reveals to Kemp that his name is Griffin and that they knew each other at university, where Griffin studied medicine for a long time before dropping out to pursue his scientific interests. Griffin tells Kemp his story. He stole money from his father to fund his research. His father later committed suicide. He is interested in the study of optics and worked for 3 years on the concept of invisibility. He finally devised a way to change the body's refractive index to match that of air, effectively making the body invisible. He tested the procedure on a cat initially, and when it was successful, he tried it on himself and was delighted that it worked, but now finds that he cannot reverse the process and is stuck being invisible. Griffin then sets his room on fire in order to destroy evidence of his work. He found that even while invisible, living out in the open with no ability to interact with the world was very difficult, and he was reduced to stealing food and clothing in order to survive. He traveled to Iping in order to work on reversing the process. Griffin has now decided that he does not wish to reverse his invisibility. Instead, he proposes to Kemp that they enrage in a reign of terror in order to exact revenge on the villagers who have opposed Griffin and forced him to abandon his work. He suggests that he and Kemp work together to establish control of the town. Griffin can invisibly murder anyone who opposes their wishes, while Kemp acts as their visible representative. The police suddenly arrive, alerted to Griffin's presence by Kemp. Griffin easily evades them, however, and the next day, Kemp wakes up to find a note from Griffin informing him that he will now be the first one killed as part of the Reign of Terror. Kemp is disturbed but stays calm. He writes to the police proposing that he be used as bait to lure Griffin somewhere to be arrested. The note is intercepted by Griffin. A police officer arrives to help protect Kemp. Griffin steals Kemp's gun and attacks the officer, then chases Kemp into town. The locals gather to protect Kemp, who is well respected in the town, and Griffin is overwhelmed by the large crowd that surrounds him, beating and kicking him and eventually killing him. As he dies, the crowd watches in horrified fascination as he slowly becomes visible again. The story ends with a postscript revealing that Thomas Marvel still has Griffin's lab notes in his possession. He discovers that they are written in a unique code. However, he cannot understand any of Griffin's work. A suitable quote from this novel: "If a man was made invisible and could act with impunity, he would go among men with the powers of a god."